Welcome, you curious minds. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads in your career, maybe with a deep scientific or clinical background, and you're pondering how to make a tangible, real-world impact, beyond the lab bench or the hospital ward? You've invested years mastering complex scientific concepts, perhaps even pioneering new research. But now you're looking to translate that profound knowledge, those insights, into conversations that really shape patient care and medical strategy on a broader scale. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into precisely that journey. We're focusing on a fascinating, incredibly dynamic, and highly sought after role, the Medical Science Liaison, or MSL. This deep dive is pretty much custom tailored for anyone looking to bridge that critical gap between intricate scientific expertise and impactful real world healthcare application.
And for this particular deep dive, we've really pulled together well, a comprehensive toolkit of insights. Our sources aren't just theoretical musings. They're practical, actionable guides. We're talking everything from avoiding pitfalls in your MSL interview and mastering the medical science liaison interview, right through to a full, compelling transcript from an Ask and Tell with MSL's webinar. That one features the invaluable Dr. Catherine Gann. What makes these sources so potent, I think, is that they're packed with crucial do's and don'ts and direct, unvarnished experiences. They come straight from individuals who have not only successfully walked this challenging path themselves, but maybe even more importantly, have sat on the other side of the table as hiring managers. They know intimately what it takes.
They know what they're looking for.
Exactly. What it takes to not just survive, but truly thrive in the MSL interview process.
Right. So that's why our mission today is crystal clear. We want to equip you, our listeners, with the essential knowledge, the strategic mindset, and frankly, the confidence to not just navigate, but really master the MSL interview process from start to finish. We'll meticulously unpack what makes these interviews so uniquely challenging, how to prepare comprehensively, strategically, pinpoint the most common and often subtle mistakes to meticulously avoid, and crucially, reveal what truly distinguishes a candidate in what sounds like a fiercely competitive landscape. Get ready for some genuine aha moments that could very well reshape the trajectory of your professional journey. So let's start by peeling back the layers. We're diving straight into understanding the medical science liaison role itself and what fundamentally sets its interview landscape apart from, almost any other position in the scientific or clinical world.
What's truly fascinating here is that for many highly accomplished scientific or clinical professionals, think PhDs, PharmDs, MDs, or advanced practice nurses, transitioning into an MSL role represents a really significant career milestone. It's often seen as the culmination of years of academic rigor, offering a chance to apply deep scientific understanding in a dynamic, field-based environment. But let's be clear, this is an intensely competitive position. It demands a truly unique blend of capabilities. Profound scientific and clinical expertise has to be coupled with exceptional communication skills, sharp strategic thinking, and perhaps most crucially, highly developed interpersonal abilities.
Okay, so it's way more than just knowing the science.
Absolutely. At its core, an MSL is essentially a conduit for scientific exchange. Their primary responsibility involves engaging in in-depth, evidence-based scientific discussions with external experts. We're talking about key opinion leaders or KOLs. These are often leading researchers, renowned clinicians, or influential figures in their therapeutic areas. They also engage with other healthcare professionals, HCPs, within a specific territory. An MSL's role is to support a company's medical strategy by providing balanced, evidence-based scientific information. They're often involved in training internal teams on complex scientific data, attending major scientific congresses and conferences to stay on the cutting edge, and critically, collecting valuable medical insights from the field. These insights are then meticulously fed back to inform and refine future company strategy, whether it's for clinical development, market access, or educational initiatives.
And you mentioned something absolutely critical earlier, the non-promotional aspect.
Yes, it's absolutely vital and something we really cannot stress enough. The MSL role is strictly non-promotional. Think of it like this. An MSL is the guardian of scientific integrity within the company's external communications. Their discussions must always remain ethical and evidence-based, focusing on scientific exchange and education. They must never, under any circumstances, blur that line between medical and commercial activities. This distinction isn't just, semantics. It's enshrined in strict regulations, especially from bodies like the FDA in the U.S., concerning how pharma and device companies interact with healthcare professionals. This role firmly sits within the medical affairs function of company, making it entirely distinct from sales or other commercial functions. Sales teams promote products. MSLs educate and exchange scientific information. That fundamental difference is key.
So, given that incredibly specialized and distinct set of responsibilities, what makes the MSL interview process itself so fundamentally different from, say, a traditional research position interview or a clinical role interview? I imagine it's not just about what you know.
Precisely. This is where it gets really interesting, and honestly, often where candidates with strong academic backgrounds can stumble if they're not prepared. Unlike those other roles where your scientific depth and individual achievements are paramount, MSL interviews meticulously assess both your scientific credibility and, critically, your ability to engage with those key opinion leaders. It's not just about what knowledge you possess. It's profoundly about how you communicate that knowledge, how you listen, how you build rapport, and how well you can strategically align your scientific discussions with the company's broader medical objectives. You could be the world's foremost expert in a rare disease, but if you struggle to articulate that knowledge clearly to diverse audiences, or if you can't build trusted peer-to-peer relationships with highly influential clinicians, well, the role simply isn't a good fit.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a communication and relationship role, grounded in science.
Exactly. And this inherent complexity is why the MSL interview is almost always a multi-stage process, often spanning weeks or even months. You'll typically begin with initial phone or video screens with recruiters. They're essentially the gatekeepers assessing your baseline fit and communication skills. If you clear that, you'll move to more in-depth behavioral interviews, usually with hiring managers or regional directors. They're probing your soft skills, leadership potential, cultural fit. Then comes a critical and often daunting stage, scientific presentations to cross-functional panels. These aren't just academic lectures. They're your chance to demonstrate that communication prowess we talked about. And increasingly, you might face situational assessments or even detailed role plays, simulating interactions with a KOL.
Wow, that's a lot of hurdles. Why such a layered approach? It seems quite intensive.
It is intensive, but it's necessary. It's all about evaluating the very unique blend of competencies required for success in this highly specialized, field-based, and let's not forget, heavily regulated role.
So, what are those key competencies they're really zeroing in on?
You've hit on the core challenge. Interviewers are looking for a very specific, multifaceted skill set that truly extends far beyond just scientific acumen. The foundational element, of course, is undeniable scientific and clinical expertise. You absolutely must have that deep understanding. But layered on top of that is strategic thinking, your ability to not just gather medical insights, but to connect them to broader company goals, to anticipate trends, and to identify unmet needs in the field.
So, seeing the bigger picture, not just the data point.
Precisely. Then there's cross-functional collaboration. MSLs don't work in a vacuum. They're constantly interacting with various internal teams. Medical affairs, regulatory, compliance, clinical development, even commercial, while maintaining those strict non-promotional boundaries, of course. You need to show you can work effectively across these diverse groups, contributing to a larger objective. Furthermore, impeccable presentation and communication skills are indispensable. Can you translate incredibly complex scientific information into clear, concise, and engaging language for various audiences? A firm, unwavering grasp of compliance and ethical understanding is also non-negotiable. MSLs operate under extremely strict rules. And finally, field-based independence is absolutely key. Can you proactively manage your own schedule, build and nurture relationships externally, and drive projects forward without constant supervision? These competencies, taken together, highlight that MSL success isn't just about individual accomplishments or brilliant lab work. It's profoundly about relational intelligence, strategic impact, and operating with integrity.
Okay, that paints a really clear picture. Now that we understand the role and the unique demands of the interview, let's pivot to maybe the most critical phase, pre-interview preparation. This is where you really lay the foundation, right? The first step seems to be genuinely understanding the MSL role deeply. And when I say deeply, I mean beyond just reading one job description.
Exactly. You need to become a bit of a detective. Go out there and meticulously read multiple job descriptions for various companies, pharma, biotech, medical device. Don't just skim. Look for recurring themes, specific responsibilities that pop up again and again, and even subtle nuances that might differ between companies or therapeutic areas. This comparison helps you grasp the full breadth. Most importantly, you absolutely must familiarize yourself with how the MSL role fits within the broader medical affairs department. It's not just an org chart thing. It's understanding its fundamental distinction from sales or commercial, being able to articulate why it's non-promotional, how it supports scientific exchange, where the boundaries lie. That shows you get the core tenets. It's a major green light for hiring managers.
Right, showing you've done your homework on the profession, not just the company.
Precisely. And that deep understanding of the role must be paralleled by an exhaustive effort to know the company and its pipeline inside out. Preparation here is truly non-negotiable and needs to go way beyond a quick glance at their About Us page. You need to immerse yourself. Research their main therapeutic areas in detail. Understand their pipeline, what's in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, what's recently approved, what truly differentiates their flagship products, who are their key competitors, dig into their recent activities, major clinical trial results, especially phase 3 or 4, new partnerships, data presented at recent congresses.
Where do you even find all that information?
Great question. Company websites are a start, especially the investor relations and medical affairs sections. Clinicaltrials.gov is essential for pipeline details. PubMed for publications, press releases are key. And here's a practical tip that can really impress. Download recent publications, press releases, and especially medical presentations directly from their sites. Pay super close attention to pipeline assets relevant to the specific MSL role you're applying for instance, oncology MSL. Know their next-gen molecule in trials, not just the approved drug. A real aha moment for an interviewer isn't just naming a trial, but maybe articulating its potential impact on clinical practice or speculating intelligently on its strategic implications. That shows initiative, curiosity, and genuine interest.
That makes sense. It's about showing you're already thinking like someone on their team. And building on that, you also have to master your own CV and publications, right? Not just list them, but be ready to discuss them.
Absolutely. Expect to be quizzed extensively on your past research, the specific impact of your publications, your PhD or postdoc focus, any patient care interaction, HCP interaction, even teaching experience. And a crucial skill here, mirroring the MSL's job, is practicing explaining your complex scientific work in plain language. Imagine talking to a busy clinician with 5 minutes or marketing colleague. Can you distill your research into clear, concise insights? Highlight the so what factor.
Like the English major mother test you mentioned.
Exactly that test. Instead of saying, my research elucidated the complex interplay of epigenetic modifications, bow tie, my work looked at how changes to DNA packaging, not the code itself, can switch cancer genes on or off, maybe opening new treatment paths. It's about adapting your message. Clarity over complexity.
Okay, got it. And that communication skill ties directly into the scientific presentation, which seems like a huge part of most MSL interviews.
It is. It's a pivotal moment, typically a 10 to 15-minute presentation plus Q&A. Common topics are a recent clinical trial, ideally phase 3 or 4, relevant to their pipeline, or maybe a scientific topic relevant to the area. Less commonly, a case study on KOL engagement. Structure is key. Clinical rationale, why the study, design, key results, limitations, importantly, and implications for clinical practice and patients. Remember the audience. Likely a mix of medical directors, MSL leads, maybe even commercial folks. So you need that balance, scientific depth, but also accessibility. It's a communication and critical thinking test, not just a science quiz.
Right, now let's get into the actual interview rounds. It starts even before you speak to anyone, right? With the applicant tracking software, the ATS.
Yes, that's the first hurdle. Think of the ATS as a digital bouncer. Your resume needs to be strategically optimized. Use keywords from the job description integrated naturally. Don't just list skills, provide examples. Instead of just goal-oriented, say something like, achieved X% increase in Y by implementing Z strategy, demonstrating strong goal orientation. That gets you past the algorithm.
And once a human sees it, the internal recruiter.
Right, usually talent acquisition. And here's that crucial insight from Dr. Gann we mentioned. From the moment you interact with anyone, from the company recruiter, scheduler, admin, even security, you're being interviewed. Your behavior with everyone matters. It shows your emotional intelligence, your rapport-building potential. They're watching how you treat everyone, not just the hiring manager.
That's a fantastic point. Every interaction counts. So after the initial screens, you get into the behavioral questions. What are they digging for there?
They're assessing soft skills, decision-making, teamwork. You'll hear things like, tell me about explaining complex data to a non-expert, or how do you prioritize when juggling multiple tasks? Describe resolving a conflict. How did you handle negative feedback? The absolute best way to prep is using the STAR or SPAR format. Situation, scenario, task, problem, action you took, result, impact. Focus on your actions and the results. And a huge pitfall here, pitfall #4, is focusing only on your individual achievements. You must show collaborative skills. Why? The MSL role is inherently collaborative internally. Share examples highlighting teamwork, adaptability, aligning with strategic goals. Show how you contributed to a larger objective. Not just, I published, but I collaborated with a team, resulting in publications that informed our next strategic steps.
Showing you're a team player, not just a solo star, makes sense. Then come the scientific knowledge questions, testing your actual expertise in the area.
Exactly. They need to know you have the foundation. Questions like, walk us through the mechanism of action of our drug X, or what are key endpoints in oncology trials for this cancer type? Or maybe a scenario. How would you explain recent trial data on product Y to a skeptical KOL? Preparation means intensely studying their key products, recent publications, staying current with guidelines, trial databases. But beware of pitfall, #1. Speaking in academic jargon without adjusting. This is common for academics transitioning. It's a problem because MSLs must translate complex data for different audiences. Dense jargon is a red flag, suggests poor communication skills. Practice simplifying. Use that English major mother test Dr. Gann suggests. Can they grasp the key takeaway? Clarity is paramount.
Okay, avoid the jargon. What about questions probing the field-facing aspects and strategy?
Right, the situational and strategic thinking questions. These assess your understanding of the field role and priorities. Examples. What if a KOL asked about off-label use? How would you build relationships in a new territory? How do you handle conflicting feedback from commercial and medical? How would you plan your first 90 days? You need a crystal clear understanding of compliance boundaries. Be ready to discuss territory planning, stakeholder mapping, insight gathering. This leads directly to pitfall #7, showing poor understanding of compliance. This is a deal breaker. Suggesting you'd convince a doctor about off-label use or find creative ways around rules means immediate elimination. MSLs operate under strict rules. Familiarize yourself with scientific exchange principles, information request protocols, compliance frameworks, and medical affairs.
Compliance is non-negotiable.
Absolutely. And that connects to pitfall #2. Overselling or acting like a sales rep. Remember, the role is non-promotional. Overenthusiasm, making unqualified claims, suggesting a doctor should prescribe something. Big red flags for compliance and credibility. Stick to the science and approved data. For off-label questions, emphasize compliance and referral channels. Never sell. Science first.
And what about interpersonal style? You mentioned pitfalls there too.
Yes, pitfall #6. Being too passive or too aggressive. Some candidates are hesitant, lack confidence. Others might dominate, interrupt, or speak dismissively about past roles. The role needs emotional intelligence, poise, relationship skills. Find a calm, confident tone. Be assertive but respectful. Show enthusiasm without arrogance. And always speak professionally about past experiences, even difficult ones.
Finding that balance. And sometimes they might even test this with a role play, a mock KOL meeting.
Yes, especially for more senior roles or companies focused on practical application. You might role-play presenting data to a KOL, played by an interviewer, who asks tough questions. They might challenge your data, ask about competitors. The goal is to see your listening skills, flexibility, how you provide medical value, all without selling.
So what if the KOL pushes back hard, like, I don't buy your phase 3 data, my experience differs? How do you handle that without being promotional or defensive?
That's a great realistic scenario. The trap is getting defensive or trying to win. Don't do that. First, acknowledge their perspective. That's a valid point, doctor, and physician experience is incredibly valuable. Then, gently pivot back to the evidence. From the data we have, here's how the study addressed X, or here's some real-world evidence that complements the trial. You validate them, but ground the discussion in approved science. You can also ask clarifying questions. Could you tell me more about what concerns you? Shows listening helps you tailor the response. And always try to link back to unmet needs if relevant. That's an important insight. This study aimed to address X unmet need. How do you see that impacting care? It shows listening, critical thinking, clinical relevance, all non-promotionally.
That's really skillful navigation, and this field interaction aspect leads to another pitfall, right, about the travel.
Exactly. Pitfall, #8, overlooking the field-based nature. If you say you're not comfortable with extensive travel or prefer working from home, unless it's specifically a non-field role, that's a major red flag. MSLs are field-based. They travel constantly meeting KOLs, attending congresses. It often involves overnight stays, unpredictable schedules. You must express enthusiasm for this aspect, the in-person engagement, the travel, the dynamic nature. Show you embrace this core part of the job.
Okay, so embrace the road warrior life. Now let's circle back to that scientific presentation. It seems like a real make-or-break moment.
It often is. Usually the third interview, often with a panel, increasingly virtual. They're assessing communication, critical thinking, adaptability under pressure. It's about telling a compelling scientific story.
And the content, sometimes they give you articles, sometimes you choose.
Correct. If they provide articles, like a Phase 3 trial paper, Dr. Gahn says they want to see how you handle their information, how you synthesize and articulate it. But you should still dig deeper. Subtly incorporating related background reading shows initiative that you're not just reading but researching. If you have a choice, Dr. Gahn advises defaulting to your own peer-reviewed work if you're comfortable telling that story or a lecture you've given that's relevant. Why? You own that data, you know the nuances, you speak with authority. Especially for a first MSL job, target roles in therapeutic areas where you already have expertise. Neuroscience PhD for a neuroscience MSL role, for example. It gives you a huge advantage. They'll teach you the MSL part, not the basic science.
Strategic positioning. So what are interviewers really looking for during that presentation?
Several things. First, storytelling. Can you communicate ideas effectively, not just facts? Do you explain your graph's clearly defined axis? Is there a smooth, logical flow? Does it make the audience care? Remember Dr. Gahn's mom test. Can you explain it so a non-scientist remembers a key takeaway? Impact and memorability.
Not just data dumping.
Not at all. Second, critical thinking. Are you interpreting the data, not just reading slides? Do you understand the drug's development pathway? Can you connect findings to clinical practice, to patients? Can you discuss strengths and weaknesses of a study? Show a balanced view. Third, and crucial for the field, is flexibility and adaptability. Can you give the talk without slides if tech fails? Can you shorten it on the fly if time runs out? Dr. Gahn mentioned a candidate who couldn't shorten her talk. Big red flag. They're testing how you handle real-time adversity, a daily MSL reality. Shows poise and quick thinking.
And what are the common ways people stumble during the presentation itself?
Good question. A major one is lack of preparation for adversity. Not anticipating tech issues, internet, video, audio, especially virtually. Always have a backup plan. Email the presentation ahead. Have a hotspot ready. Poor time management is another. Being late or being unable to adjust length if the schedule shifts shows inflexibility, which is killer for an MSL. For virtual interviews, a distracting environment. Quiet background, good lighting, no pets wandering in. Dr. Gahn's cat anecdote is perfect. Blurred backgrounds are usually wise. Also, not following instructions. If they ask for slides in a specific format, follow it. Shows attention to detail and adaptability. You might meet HCPs with specific preferences. And finally, lack of eye contact, even virtually. Look at the camera. And don't just present at them, engage them. Ask questions, invite interaction, explain why it matters to them. Make it a dialogue.
Great practical tips. So assuming you navigate all that, how do you really stand out? And what if MSL isn't the first step?
Right, the MSL role might not be your first industry job, and that's okay. There are valuable alternative paths. Medical writing, training roles, regulatory affairs, even working for industry vendors who create materials for pharma. Why are these good? They provide crucial industry experience. You learn the business side of science, the faster pace, the corporate language. You build your network, and you figure out if MSL is truly the right fit, or if you prefer, say, medical writing. For PhDs and PharmDs, there are also specialized 2-year medical affairs fellowships or industry postdocs, like the Biogen program. They offer structured rotations, great exposure, and mentorship.
So build relevant experience, even if it's not MSL title right away, but for those applying directly, maybe without tons of clinical experience, how do they stand out?
Key is leveraging existing expertise. Target roles where you already have the scientific or clinical knowledge, like we discussed.
Okay.
Oncology pharmacist for oncology MSL. And really highlight transferable skills. Dr. Gahn says all skills are transferable. Basic scientist. Highlight times you shadowed clinicians. Discuss patient cases. Show initiative. Grasp of the clinical world. Put it on the CV. Cover letter. Use in behavioral examples. And don't forget soft skills. Teamwork, quiet leadership, coaching, volunteer work. Give concrete examples. Show that emotional intelligence. That's what separates a great scientist from a great MSL.
It's about connecting the dots between your past and their needs. And deep research is part of that.
Absolutely paramount. Company research needs to be deep. Financial reports, clinicaltrials.gov for pipeline and history, press releases, medical presentations, understand their differentiators, strategy, market position, and interviewer research. Use LinkedIn. Look up everyone you'll interview. Understand their background, interests, maybe find common ground. It's like profiling a KOL shows proactivity. And while you're looking them up, be mindful of your own online profile, LinkedIn, social media, negative comments about past employers, unprofessional content. They will look, and it reflects poorly. Maintain a professional brand.
Good point about the digital footprint. Now, asking questions at the end, you said failing to do so is a pitfall. What makes a question insightful?
Right. Pitfall #5. Failing to ask insightful questions shows disengagement. MSLs are curious, strategic thinkers. You must come prepared with thoughtful questions. Examples: how does medical affairs collaborate with commercial here, ensuring compliance? Or what does success look like in the first 6 months and first year? How are field insights fed back into strategy? What's the onboarding process like? Asking, can I speak to another MSL on the team, is great for getting real culture insights. And Dr. Gann's powerful question, why is this position open? The answer, promotion, expansion, retirement, reveals a lot about culture and progression. For work culture, ask indirectly. Maybe about vacation expectations. Do people check email on vacation? Rather than a blunt, what's work-life balance like?
Smart way to phrase it. And what topics should candidates definitely steer clear of?
Generally, avoid deep dives into your personal life. Marital status, kids, religion they can't ask, and volunteering it can be awkward. Relevant volunteer work from your CV is fine. Salary is usually handled by HR talent acquisition early on. Don't push specifics with hiring managers unless they bring it up. It can seem like that's your only focus. And the biggest one, negative talk. Never ever complain about previous employers or colleagues. It reflects poorly on your professionalism and emotional intelligence. Frame past challenges as learning experiences.
Okay, keep it positive and professional. Let's talk about the final stage. Post-interview etiquette and follow-up. The thank you note seems crucial.
It is. The power of the thank you note is real. Send email thank yous to everyone you interviewed with, ideally within 24 hours. Email is faster than handwritten, ensures timely receipt. Keep it concise, professional, personalized. Thank them for their time. Mention something specific you enjoyed or learned from that conversation. Shows you were paying attention. And here's that killer tip from Dr. Gann. If you didn't know an answer during the interview, say, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Then research it and provide the answer in your thank you note to that interviewer. Huge demonstration of initiative, follow-through, commitment to learning key MSL traits turns a potential minus into a big plus.
That's brilliant, turning a gap into an opportunity. And what about right at the end of the interview itself?
Yes, before you even leave the room or log off the call, verbally reaffirm your strong interest. Don't leave it ambiguous. It's like an MSL asking for the next meeting with a KOL. You're asking for the job. Say something like, thank you so much. This solidified my interest. I really hope we can pursue this. I'm very excited about the possibility of joining company name. I look forward to hearing from you. It's a confident closing statement.
Explicitly state your continued interest. Got it. What about following up if you don't hear back?
Good question. Timeline. If you haven't heard back within 2 weeks, and they didn't give a specific timeline, it's okay to send one polite follow-up email to the recruiter, just reiterating interest and asking for an update. Be prepared for ghosting, unfortunately. A lack of response often means no. And sometimes how a company handles this can tell you something about their culture. If you don't get the job, it's acceptable to ask for feedback. Thank you for the update. Could you offer any feedback on areas for improvement? You might not always get it due to policy, but it's worth asking for your own growth. And most importantly, conduct your own critical self-evaluation. What went well? What could be better? What questions tripped you up? Managers want lifelong learners, as Dr. Gann says, show you can learn and adapt.
That self-reflection is key. One last area. What about international experience or geography?
Great point. For those with international MSL experience, that experience is highly valuable and transferable. The main hurdle for working in the U.S., for example, is usually work authorization, not the skills themselves. Core principles are mostly universal. For first-time MSLs, focusing on a therapeutic area where you already have deep scientific clinical expertise is often more critical than having experience in the specific geographic territory. Your science depth is your initial strong suit. Companies can teach territory management.
Fantastic insights. Wow, what an incredible deep dive we've had today. We've covered so much ground, from crafting that ATS-friendly resume, mastering behavioral questions, nailing the scientific presentation, asking insightful questions, right through to post-interview follow-up. It's so clear the MSL role isn't just about knowing science, it's about translating it into strategic action, influencing ethically, and building those crucial trusted relationships.
Indeed. The MSL interview is really your stage to show you're not just scientifically brilliant, but you have the emotional intelligence, the communication skills, the strategic mindset to thrive in that unique, field-based, regulated environment. Remember, every single interaction, from the first email to the last thank you, is part of that evaluation. Every detail truly matters.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, the aspiring MSL? Beyond just landing the job, think about how these skills we discussed, explaining complex ideas clearly, collaborating effectively, being flexible, truly listening, aren't just for interviews. They are fundamentally the bedrock of being an impactful MSL, someone who actually shapes healthcare through informed scientific exchange. So the question becomes, how will you continue to cultivate these vital skills, not just to get the job, but to truly excel in the role and make a meaningful difference?